Hey, how's it going? This is Boomer from Sugarbombed, and today I'm doing an analysis of the Battlefield 1 world reveal. So in this first scene, we see a German soldier sneak up behind a British soldier. He initiates a kill animation, similar to that in Battlefield 4 and 3, where if you sneak up behind someone with a knife, you can stab them and initiate a kill animation. However, from how prominent that these trench clubs are in the trailer, it looks like that the trench club might actually be a secondary weapon. So you might have your primary weapon, which is a rifle, and your secondary weapon, which is a trench club. This is just me speculating at the moment, but it's definitely a possibility. I just want to add how beautiful they made the landscape look. If you can see in the background, you see dozens of weather balloons. Recon balloons. You see fires, you see all this different terrain, you can see the textures in the mud, how the water reflects the lighting. The lighting looks spectacular, and they've definitely added the gore up in this game. Battlefield 4, the gore was pretty tame. If you stab someone, there might be a little bit of blood. Shoot someone, there might be a little bit of miss, but it looks like they're actually having a heavy emphasis on gore. This scene, I'm not sure if it's actual in-game footage, but it's definitely using the Frostbite engine. So this is possibly what we could see in the levels of gore and utter violence in the game. In this scene, we see a lone rider in what looks to be Arabia. It doesn't look to be Palestine or Israel. It looks to be definitely Arabia. So what we're possibly going to see is a Arabian faction, which would be siding with the British, or we might just see a British/Commonwealth faction. There was quite a bit of fighting in Saudi Arabia and the Israel, Palestine, Lebanon during World War I. There was a lot of cavalry action by Australian troops, New Zealand troops, and actually not sure about New Zealanders, and British troops. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how that goes. There was a few urban battles, but it was mostly open deserts, plains, etc. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what factions we're going to see. Now, if we go forward to the next picture, you can actually see it might not be a male character, which is a little interesting because I've never heard of female troops in Arabia, of all places, during World War I. I know there are a few that lied about their gender and joined the US Army, British Army, but I never heard of any Saudi Arabian women fighting. Now, I could be wrong. This could be just a really feminine looking male, but I don't know where DICE is going with this. I'm not sure if there's a historical context, and if there is, please correct me on it. But it looks like for some reason we're having a female character. It could also be a part of the single player, which is looking likely, and this is definitely a pre-rendered video within the Frostbite engine. So all we're really getting from this is possibly speculation on what areas we're going to see and what factions we're going to see. And the DICE did confirm that Arabia will be featured in the game, in the multiplayer maps, and probably the single player. So in this scene we see a biplane with a gunner in the rear. It looks to be a single player set piece, but it could be a multiplayer map. If it is a multiplayer map, it means that you can be a gunner in a biplane, or you can be a pilot. This also seems to be flying over a city in probably Belgium. So if this is a multiplayer map, there'll be some urban combat in a ruined city, which would be very, very interesting compared to trench warfare, desert warfare, etc. So in this scene we see a observation balloon, a biplane, and some soldiers fighting. If you look at the right corner, you can actually see what we first saw in the first image of two soldiers engaging in hand-to-hand combat. This doesn't look like it's scripted. It looks like it's the first scene where it's probably a melee attack button, where if you press, say, the F key, you go to a melee attack animation and you kill the enemy. It doesn't show us if you get if you get attacked at the front, you can counterattack, but it looks like it's a possibility. Now, once again, they're using a improvised weapon. This time it's actually a shovel instead of a trench baton. So it looks like we'll be a similar system in Battlefield 4, where you have all these options which knife you can use. However, it looks like what weapon you use for melee attacks will be much more instrumental in the animation that is displayed. Now, if you look to the left, there's not much that's actually revealed besides how gorgeous the game looks, but it looks like bolt action rifles is the main weapon in the game, which is kind of to be expected since it's World War I. So in this scene we see once again a German character meleeing a British character, and it is brutal. Compared to Battlefield 3 and 4, it is absolutely brutal on how severe the melee attacks are. The NPC gets absolutely destroyed. So now we see a dogfight, which looks to be in Arabia or Israel, Palestine, in where a German, what is assumed to be a German plane or an Ottoman plane, is chasing down a British plane. What's quite interesting about this is it's a different plane to the one we see previously. In the previous plane we saw could have been a light bomber plane, or it could have been a heavy fighter plane. So it's quite different in that it only has machine guns on the front of the plane instead of having machine guns on the rear and the front. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how we have different airplanes throughout the game. So depending on what map you play, you'll have a different airplane. So the player will have to learn how to adapt and to learn each machine differently. So here we see a stone windmill getting absolutely destroyed. This might be a minor Levolution event, or it could be, hopefully, just random destruction, like you can randomly destroy whatever you want. But then again, it could also be a single player set piece, we just don't know. But it looks sexy as fuck. It has the distinctive Battlefield 3 and 4 red flares kind of thing going on. But it still looks incredibly attractive. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of levels of Levolution we'll have, or if we'll just be able to destroy everything like Bad Company 2. So what's interesting about this image is we're seeing a tank that saw a lot of action in the Arabian and just the general Middle Eastern theatre of war during World War I. Now, the interesting part about it is, like I mentioned before about different biplanes on different maps, the same goes to tanks. So it looks like we can have specific tanks, specific maps. So depending on what map you play, depends what tank you have. So you'll have to learn each tank individually. Just because you're good with one tank doesn't mean you're good for the other tank. It's also going to be interesting to see how the stats are going to be different. Because if two different types of tanks are fighting each other, their stats are going to be different. In Battlefield 4, if you had a tank, it would perform the exact same as a Russian tank, as a Chinese tank, as an American tank. But this looks to be different. Now, this thing interests me quite a bit. We're seeing horses again. But what's interesting about this is we may see horses in multiplayer maps. Now, I was talking to Galactic Pilgrim, and he was saying it'll probably be similar to how motorbikes were treated in Battlefield 4. But what we don't know. So it's possible that if horses are in multiplayer, you can jump on a horse, but they're going to act differently to a motorbike, because you can jump off a horse, but they're not going to just keep driving off a cliff. So will the horse have their own AI? Will horses react to getting shot, etc.? Otherwise, they're probably just going to be in single player as set pieces. So hopefully they are in multiplayer, and if they do have their own AI, then kudos to DICE for taking that extra effort. And it'll be really interesting to see dynamic level they'll bring to multiplayer matches. Now, this is perhaps one of the most interesting scenes in the trailer. In this scene, there's some chlorine gas, you see some soldiers' gas masks, you see what looks to be a light machine gun. But what's interesting is this is looking to be a multiplayer multiplayer gameplay. But you can put on a gas mask, which is so fucking cool and interesting, because when you put on the gas mask, it slightly disrupts your vision. So, but you can obviously breathe in the chlorine gas. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this is implemented and how it's going to be used. Is chlorine gas going to be grenades, or is it going to be artillery? I'm assuming it's going to be grenades, but it's going to add a lot more dynamic. Imagine the thermal grenades from Battlefield 4, except much more deadly. So this may look a bit outlandish, but this is actual armor they used during World War I. Now, armor wasn't widespread because, as you can see, it was bulky, it really impeded vision, it wasn't that useful, and bullets would still usually pass through. But it's still interesting to see that DICE has decided to use armor in the game. Now, will this be in multiplayer? Probably. But they could have added resistance, They could have better explosive protection. There's a lot of things that will be happening. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens if you can don a piece of armor. It looks pretty medieval, but this was actual armor they invented and used very limitedly during World War I. It's nothing special here, but it does show that there's been multiple tanks in the game. This is a late war tank used around 1917 on the Western Front. It was very, very effective. It was used primarily during 1918. This scene isn't that special at all, but it does show us some trenches. These are pretty sophisticated trenches. It looks sexy as fuck. I mean, look at the trees, look at the duckboards, look at the ladders, look at the character models. It looks fucking great. And that tank rolling over the top of the trench is intimidating as fuck. It's going to be great to see how intimidating tanks are going to be in this game. Train! Did I mention that, according to some rumors, there will be naval combat in the game, and according to the live stream, you can actually command one of the battleships, so you can actually pilot one of the battleships. Also, by the looks of it, there will be naval assaults using biplanes. I don't think we'll see a carrier assault mode, but it'll be interesting to see naval combat, because apparently naval combat can be used to help land combat, similar to Battlefield 1942. So you can use your battleship to absolutely bombard the beaches and stuff like that, but it's a massive target. What grabbed my attention here was the artillery. Now, the last game where we had artillery in multiplayer was Battlefield 2. If you're the commander, you call in artillery on position. It didn't return exactly in Battlefield 4, but in Battlefield 4, you could command a cruise missile attack. So it looks like maybe this will be Battlefield 1 includes artillery. This will be their version of a cruise missile. And as you know, artillery in World War I was quite fucking significant. So hopefully they are including artillery. In this, we see where the teaser trailer left off, and we see a massive motherfucking Zeppelin. It's fucking huge. I don't know what role this will play in multiplayer, but it looks fucking intimidating. So hopefully we'll see it in multiplayer, but I have no idea what role it'll play. Now, for anyone who's wondering why it's called Battlefield 1, it's because there's never been a Battlefield called Battlefield 1. There's been 1942, Vietnam, 2 Bad Company series, 3 and 4. There's never been a Battlefield 1. So instead of being serialized, it's chronological. So chronologically, this is the first Battlefield game. Chronologically. So that's why it's called Battlefield 1. However, in saying that, it's a pretty stupid name. And it's going to be confusing to new people who join. But it's just a name. It doesn't dictate the game. So to end it off, you can pre-order the game now, actually. It's in Australian dollars, it's $89.99 for the regular edition. And it's $109 for the deluxe edition, which includes the Red Baron pack, the Harlem Fighters DLC, I assume, and the Lawrence of Arabia DLC. So, if you're in Australia, you kind of fucked money-wise with buying this, but it looks worth it. And I know it's a waste of money to spend so much, but I'll definitely spend the $109. Granted, I could buy 3 bottles of fucking great bourbon for that, but it looks like a great game. So you can pre-order it on PS4, Xbox One, and Origin. It's obviously not available on Steam because EA. So yeah, if you're interested, go grab it. If you're not, then, well, fuck it. As in Boomer, I hope you enjoyed my very, 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 very long analysis. And I'll try and do some more analysis of Battlefield 1 and other games as they come out. So this has been Boomer, signing off.